Alright, hey guys. Alright, there's a rumor going around, and I want to kind of address this because this has been like a huge topic on social media. And the topic is has King Charles secretly converted to Islam? Now we're going to hear from this guy here who's going to spread a bunch of lies, and what they call this is takia. And takia is lies that advance Islam. So let's hear some of his claims, and I'm going to debunk some of them. Now, whether Charles has converted to Islam, if this is true, it's a problem because he's the head of the Church of England, and to be head of the Church of England, and that comes with the role of being monarch. So if this is true, then he has to abdicate his throne because he's not the defender of the faith of Islam. He's the defender of the faith of Christianity. So let's get into this video and let's hear this guy's lies.
And welcome to another episode of Smile to Jannah. I'm here at Speaker's Corner and I'm seeing this bit of news circulate on social media quite a lot, to be honest. And this is the notion that King Charles has accepted Islam. Now, what's their reasoning behind this? Because it's the first time in Windsor that they have allowed Muslims to come in quite a lot, to be honest. And this is the notion that
This picture here was taken in Turkey. Now, an imam from Cyprus actually came out and said that he was the one who performed Charles's conversion over to Islam. I'll try and find the article about that, but if not, I'll put it in my community page, but I will try and find it. Now, what reason has an imam got to lie about this? And Charles has had a he's had a weird obsession with Islam. You think, like, with him being the head of the Church of Christianity, his focus would be on Christianity, but no, it's he has this fascination with Islam. But we're going to get into some of the lies that this guy, this Takia, that's what they call it, the lies to further the advancement of Islam. And wait till you hear some of the jokes that this guy says. And this tweet says, "Would you be surprised if I told you that King Charles is secretly a Muslim and converted to Islam in Turkey?" Now, I hadn't read this before. I had just said this, so that emphasizes what I just said there, that he converted in Turkey. Also, Prince William is a Muslim too. I'm not too sure about that, because Prince William, it's been shown that, like, I don't think he's like really that interested in the church. He'll go to like certain events and stuff like that. A lot of people think that William is a secret atheist. In which cases are both problems, because again, like, they're both heads of churches. I could be wrong about William. But the evidence that's mounting up about Charles being a Muslim is getting to be a bit overwhelming here. I would explain why King Charles held an Islamic call to prayer at Windsor Castle this week. Now, this has never been done. Never been done. Queen Elizabeth, Victoria, anything like that it's never ever been done. St George's is halls are adorned by saints and stuff like that. So why would you hold an Islamic call to prayer in a place like that? Why not even, if you want to include like the faiths and that, why not hold it in the ground? Why not like hold it in the thousands of mosques that adorn Britain? Why does it have to be in the residence of the Christian head of the church? And here we have Charles here when he was younger in Turkey, and this is where he was supposedly converted to Islam.
Charles has accepted Islam. Now, what's their reasoning behind this? Because it's the first time in Windsor that they have allowed Muslims to come in and break fast, or open their fast.
I mean, like, this is I know a lot of Christians are in uproar about this. I mean, we don't see Hindus being allowed to celebrate their celebrations. Sikhs, we don't see Hanukkah. We don't see anything like that. But we do see the Islamic faith being allowed to do this. And again, like, this is a Christian king allowing an Islamic call to prayer inside a Christian monarch's residence. And then I can understand people for being angry about this.
On top of that, there was a clip of King Charles packing dates for fasting Muslims.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize the king would be so fast.
And again, this date fell on like Lent. It fell on the lead up to like Easter, etc., etc. And again on the royal family's website, he wished the Islamic community happy Ramadan and Iftar, I think it is, but there was not one single message from a Christian king, about the lead up, one of the most important lead ups in the Christian faith, which is, it's abhorrent in my book. It's abhorrent. Queen Elizabeth would never have done this.
You are packing dates faster than I
I just want to put this again quick. Yes, acknowledge the different faiths and etc. that live in Britain. I hate the word multicultural society. I don't want to live in a multicultural society. I want to live in a society with different cultures, but we all live under British law, not little ghettos with different cultures spotted all around the place. We want to live in a British society. Yes, you can have your cultural traditions that you've brought from your home country, but this is a Christian country, Christian laws, and multicultural. It just seems like we've got vast amounts of different cultures that all follow their different beliefs and faiths and live in little ghettos, and many of them, if you go into like places like Bradford, etc. I mean, I went to a place and honestly, I didn't even think I was in England anymore. Everyone was speaking like Arabic, Urdu, you know, and it, there was the shops. There was, I mean, there wasn't even like one like single shop apart from barber shops. It was quite disheartening, because when you look back in the past and these high streets are thriving with little businesses and stuff, and now they're open up to like barber shops and cell phone shops, um and no one speaks English, and now you can't even comment on the fact where if you say to someone, I don't understand what you're saying. It happened on social media where a guy who was deaf didn't understand what one of these gentlemen were saying, and he was cautioned and nearly arrested for hate speech. I mean, how the hell are we meant to understand what people are saying if we don't even understand the language?
Now, I saw this clip on GB News of Nigel Farage tearing his hair out.
What on earth is going on? I would not have thought that on the eve of Lent that Ramadan would be celebrated in the St George's Chapel, Windsor, remember?
And he's right. Lent, like, I know people go on and on about Christmas and stuff, but Lent, like, Good Friday, Resurrection, like Sunday and stuff, these are the most important dates in the Christian calendar. It's where Jesus was crucified and then he rose from the dead, you know, and so this is extremely important. But instead, the king and even the government chose to put on their social media posts, Happy Ramadan, not one single word to the Christian community of the Christian country that they represent.
At the place where we saw, the final moments of the funeral service of Her Majesty the Queen, but that is exactly what happened.
And other people that are actually giving this rumour credibility. Why?
What does this say? So this is Father Calvin Robinson. I really like this guy. He is he's a priest. And what he's saying is, did you know that Prince Charles has converted to Islam? Yes, he is a Muslim. I can say more, but it happened in Turkey. Oh yes, he converted all right. When you get home, check on how often he travels to Turkey and find check out how much he travels to Turkey. You'll find that your future king is Muslim, Grand Mufti of Cyprus. So, as I said, the Grand Mufti of Cyprus released a statement saying that he converted Charles to Islam while he was in Turkey. Now, as you know, Cyprus is split into two sections. There is the Turkish side, and which if you want to talk about, the pro-Palis want to talk about colonization. Let's talk about Cyprus and how half of Cyprus is colonized by Turkey, but we don't see any protests about that, do we? Because of course it doesn't involve the Jews. Now let's get on to more of this guy's ridiculous claims.
Because he is showing some allowance, some softness towards Islam. So if you show any allowance or softness towards Islam, that means you've accepted Islam. According to that logic.
Okay, in the Christian faith, right? Jesus says, in order to come to the Father, like, you have to come through me. Okay. I'm not speaking like verbatim here. I'm just like rambling off the top of my head. And then there's like loads of like errors in the Quran. The Quran says that the Holy Trinity is Jesus, God, and Mary. That's not the Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And Paul also warns of that, like, Jesus would be the last, like, Messiah. In the Quran it says it didn't. In the Quran it says that Jesus was never crucified. So what they did was, and this is unbelievable, because like Jesus died to repent us of our sins. So in the Quran it says that so Jesus was getting crucified. So Allah then decided to like switch Jesus out with a perfect with some random guy and have him crucified, and then took Jesus up to heaven, which totally negates the fact of why Jesus died on the cross. So Christianity and Islam, they're not compatible at all. At all. So to show softness towards a religion that in its hadiths and Quran allows beating of women, sex, slavery, multiple wives, racism, there's so much more, the way that they treat Christians and Jews. So you've got, and Islam is spread by the sword. So if you're a member of the Abrahamic conditions, which I don't believe Islam is, but if you're conquered by Islam and you're what they say is a member of the Abrahamic conditions, you get three choices, right? You can either convert, die, or become what's called a dhimmi. Now, a dhimmi is you've got to wear, and this is actually in the Hadith of Omar. You've got to wear 2 odd shoes on your feet, 2 left shoes on your feet that doesn't match. You've got to wear a red belt around your waist. You're not, if you're dressed better than a Muslim, and the Muslims wants your clothes, you've got to strip off and give the Muslim your clothes, and then they'll give you their raggedy clothes. You're not allowed to own property. You're not allowed to ring church bells. If a Muslim comes home and can't be bothered walking the distance to his house, they're allowed to bang you up out your bed, and you've got to take them in And then you've also got to offer them your bed and you sleep on the floor. You've also got to walk on the gutter side of the road. So you're not allowed to like walk on the same path as a Muslim. Sounds a bit like Jim Crow was to me. You're not allowed to ride like vehicles or anything. You've got to like ride a donkey. I think I posted in my community page the rules if you're a dhimmi in an Islamic country. If you are a Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, you get two choices. You can convert or you can be burned alive or beheaded. If you're an atheist, say Scientologist, other kind of like faiths, Mormon, you know, that kind of thing, you don't even get the choice to convert. It's an automatic burn alive. If you're gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, it's an automatic death sentence where you are pushed from a roof, and then if you don't die when you hit the bottom, you're stoned to death. If you get caught for adultery, you're stoned to death. If you decide to leave Islam because of the barbaric nature of it, you are tied to the back of a car and dragged feet. You're binded by the feet and you're dragged all throughout like dirt roads and everything, and you till your skin shredded apart and you're dead. There's if you're caught stealing, your hands chopped off. If you refuse to join like the military, your right hand is chopped off and then your left leg is chopped off. And this is the religion that Charles finds so peaceful.
We'd have to accept a lot of the royal family has accepted Islam. Queen Victoria, she had a very good relationship with Abdul, and
not true, but yeah, he's making it seem as though Queen Victoria had this great relationship with Muslims. Abdul was a guy who came to Britain and explained to Victoria the atrocities that were happening in Nigeria and that they were still selling people. And he had a good relationship with Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband. And he would relate to them the atrocities that were going on over there. The fact that monarchs were, when they died, they were not only like burying themselves, like they had slave girls like at the age of 7 that were being buried and alive with them. And so he brought this to Queen Victoria's attention, which led to the royal family, the Royal Navy, and the besiege on Lagos. So he's lying there.
wanted to learn Urdu. Let's take another example. Princess Diana. She fell in love with a Pakistani doctor in a hospital to such a degree that she traveled to Pakistan under the guise of meeting Imran Khan and his wife Jemima just so she could.
Are you trying to say that Princess Diana, yeah, she did fall in love with a doctor, but you're trying to say, and that's, to me, that's putting Princess Diana down. Because you're trying to say that Princess Diana fell in love with this doctor, which she was. He was a heart doctor. And then she decided to travel to his home country, being in love with him, even though she travelled there and he was married. I don't think so. Diana's mystery man. During a visit to Pakistan, Diana slipped away from the media pack to visit his family, and whatever Hassan's feelings, there could be no marriage without consent. So this was the thing. Diana and him loved each other, but the family didn't consent. And also because this doctor knew getting involved with Diana would mean a lot of media scrutiny. While the subject was not broached directly, Diana felt she should meet his family. A year earlier, she entertained nanny apps at Kensington Palace, where Diana presented her with a silver rose bowl. A video of the meeting shows Diana's relief as Hassan's grandmother touched the princess's cheek in gratitude. At one point, Mrs. Diana, a Muslim, lifted up the corners of her sandwiches and apparently checking it to see if they contained ham. Diana would have made sure that Diana was well educated in these kind of things, so yeah, I don't know why she did that. Diana assured her the film was salmon. But within a year, Hassan's affections had cooled. He was fond of the princess, but could not handle the media. Just what I said in an intrusive reporting. It was around this time that she sought the help and counsel of Imran Khan. So yeah, Diana never, ever, ever pursued a married man. So here, another lie.
Speak to the parents, and it fell through. It didn't happen. However, she did in the end get together with Al Fayyad's son, Dodi Al Fayyad. And on top of that, they say with regards to Queen Elizabeth that she's descended from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Queen Elizabeth descended from the Prophet Muhammad. Let's just check this out. I'm going to turn this phone round here and now. So I asked ChatGPT. No. Let's go to Google. Did Queen Elizabeth descend was Queen Elizabeth II at descendant of Prophet Muhammad. Here we go. No, there is no credible evidence to support the claim that Queen Elizabeth II was a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. It says, while there was a possible connection through an 11th century Muslim princess, Zaida of Seville, this link is definitely not proven. The claim has been met with skepticism, and historians and my eyes are not working today. Genealogical researchers. So Queen Elizabeth was not a descendant of Prophet Muhammad.
That she's descended from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So
Lies.
you honestly cannot make this sort of stuff up. You'd have to say all of them were Muslim. Winston Churchill, he was this close to accepting Islam. Some say he had
Another lie. Let's see what Winston Churchill really thought. Let's have a look. What did Churchill think of Islam? Okay. See, Churchill's quotes on Islam. Churchill on Islam were nuanced and quite different from imperialism at the time. Some of him as a dangerous. Yeah, so Churchill thought Islam was dangerously radical. So, yeah, again, more lies.
accepted Islam. You had King Ofra of the 8th century. There was a coin that was minted.
Churchill did not accept Islam. He thought He thought it was extremely dangerous. There's many quotes from Churchill saying these exact words. They're not hard to find, just look them up.
Here in the UK, and that coin had the Islamic declaration of faith on it. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There was a coin that was minted here in the UK, and that coin had the Islamic declaration of faith on it. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. So some say that he accepted Islam as well. So the question is, why are so many of these individuals inclined towards Islam? Well, the first reason is because from the 4th century to, I would argue, the 15th, 16th century, the Islamic empires have been somewhat dominant, and they have contributed.
Why not? Why not? Do you not even think of this like the Crusades, mister? The Crusades went and because when Islam through the sword came into like Spain, and the Crusades decided to push them back and then take Jerusalem. Soldiers normally take like mementos, so like these kind of like coins and that would have been keepsakes. That's probably why these coins were found in Britain. As keepsakes, like you see, like trophies of war, etc. If they're made of gold, you know, it's not because that Muslims have been here since the 4th century. What utter bollocks! This guy's just full of, like, as I say, it's called taqiyya, full of lies and the advancement of Islam.
A lot of what we have today, and many Muslims in the Middle East and Asia, they contribute, you know, they have strategic role when it comes to the world.
And I want to also say this.
So it makes sense to look after the
many Muslims in the Middle East, many Muslims of the Middle East, one from United Arab Emirates, have said that through political correctness and not understanding Islam is going to cause Europe lots and lots of problems. Tons of Arabic and Muslim countries have said that we are important, the worst of society, the society that they don't even want in their country, people that they would rather have in prison or segregated away from the rest of society because they're so extreme and dangerous that they don't want them there. Now think about it. What would happen? Now you've got in Syria, you've got that thousands upon thousands of people sitting in a camp, an ISIS camp. That's fair enough. It's like guarded by the Kurds at the moment. But what happens if the jihadi fighters decide to go down there and liberate these radical extremist murderers and set them free? And we're talking about even the children. The children are radicalized. There's a guy I follow who I'm desperately trying to get an interview with, who's been to these camps. I'm trying to convince him. Whether he'll do it or not, I'm not sure. He's a reporter for the Sun, and he's been to these camps and he's filmed these children, and he was shocked at how radical like these children are. And they're segregated away from the fathers, so it's the mothers that are teaching them. But there's no there's no like redemption for these people. All they want to do is establish a caliphate. And if these people get loose, where do you think like the first country they're going to head for? The UK. And if that happens, are we effed?
Muslims in your lands for strategic benefit. And if you look at The Guardian, they posted that Islamophobia has risen. So if you take all these things into consideration, why wouldn't you?
Islamophobia, like, is a term that was brought about by the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, a phobia is an irrational fear of something. I believe Christians, Jews, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, etc., have a right to have a fear of the religion of peace, because in one, like, surah in the Quran, it says, like, when their Messiah comes down, he'll come down and he'll slaughter the pigs. The pigs are the Christians. And another one, it says that they're going when they're Mehdi or whatever it is that comes. That won't happen until they kill all the Jews. And there's a famous saying, like, it's in their book, but it's also in the Hamas Charter, where it says, "O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind a rock, come and kill it. O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind a tree, come kill it." You know, it's and then if you wonder why so many people, when they're attacked, their attacks are by the neck and head, and I don't want to bring up Southport because I don't like using children's death in any kind of video, but the children's wounds were by the head. Most attacks are by the neck and the head, because that's where they believe the aorta is, the life vein, and it tells you that in their book. Go for their aorta, their neck. Take off their heads, you know. So there's a reason why when attacks happen that the necks and stuff like that are the ones that are attacked.
Assist Muslims and big up Muslims during this holy month. That being said, the other argument that they're making is, oh, he didn't say anything about Lent. Guys, let's be honest. When's the last time you heard someone fasting for Lent? I mean, it's only recently when you've got these right-wing guys.
All the time people fast for Lent when they're true Christians. One case and example is Ireland. Just because, like, how bloody dare you say, because like they're advocating for Ramadan, like, why should they, like, advertise for Lent? You know, when was the last time anybody ever, like, fasted for Lent? You're in a bloody Christian country, you absolute hypocrite. Therefore, Christian celebrations should be celebrated. We would never go to your country and advocate and celebrate Lent. For one, we wouldn't be allowed to. You're not allowed to, like, ring church bells. You're not even allowed to, like, build a church. If your church is falling to pieces, you're not allowed to fix it, you know. Whereas in our country, you're allowed to do all that. So how dare you say that your religion takes precedence over ours? Maybe not as many Christians celebrate Lent as there used to be, but that doesn't mean to say that it shouldn't be celebrated, because there still is Christians in Britain celebrate Lent. That's angering to me. Angering.
Are trying to bring Christian values back and trying to claim that this is a Christian country.
It is.
Is it a Christian country when over 50% of people, yes, they don't identify as Christian? Number two, let's look at the values that we have today.
Not true.
Are they Christian values?
Not true. Not true at all. It doesn't matter if 5% identify Christian, 2%, 3%, 20%, 50%. It's still a Christian country based on Christian values, Christian laws. We have a Christian monarch. We don't. This isn't a Muslim country, so your religion doesn't take precedence over ours.
Does this country claim to be a Christian country?
Yes.
Of course not. And a lot of people are leaving the Christian religion. Why? Because it's just not practical. There's so many different versions of the Bible. They don't know which one is correct. There's so many akid.
Not true. This is an argument they make all the time. All the Bible's corrupted. It's corrupted. Now, there's an argument called the Islamic dilemma. The Islamic dilemma. In the Quran, it says that the words of God cannot be unchanged. And another verse, it said, Jews came to Muhammad, and it was about an adultery case, and he'd asked them to judge it. And he had says, like, he cannot judge it, so he says, like, bring me your Torah. And he placed that on the judgment cushion. And he says, whatever is in your Torah is the laws that you abide to. And then he also says in the same sentence that along with the Christians, with the book that you have, the laws of the gospel is what you abide to. So Muhammad says that you already have the book of the Torah, and to the Christians you already have the book to the Christians, and that the word of God cannot be changed. But now these Muslims, like, have decided to change the words of their own prophet and say that the Bible and the Torah are corrupted. Yet in their own book it says that the words of God cannot be changed. So they're now becoming their own prophets. They're a bunch of hypocrites.
There's different beliefs with regards to Jesus. Is he subordinate to God?
And I want to emphasize this as well. Your Quran might be one book. And you also forget that your first caliph, Omar, there was many different types of the Quran. Many manuscripts. In fact, some of them even got on. This is so funny. One of them even got eaten by a goat. So ridiculous. So what this caliph decided to do, because you had tribes in all different areas with all different recitations of the Quran, and war was breaking out between each of them, saying, no matter, like, your version of the Quran's different from mine, mine's is different from yours, they all say different things, blah blah blah. So this Uthman decided to collect all the manuscripts of the Quran, and the guy who he sent to go and do this actually said it would be easier to move a mountain than it would be to collect all these recitations of the Quran. So then they managed to get as many as they could, and he compiled it into like one and burned the rest. So that means that Quran is then corrupted, because it's not if man decided what he wanted in the Quran and then decided to burn what he didn't want in the Quran. Yet they call our book corrupted, and then they also forget to understand is the Bible isn't just like one book like the Quran. It's made up of multiple books, you know. They just the thing is, like, with Muslim, they just don't understand. They don't understand the Christian faith. That's just point blank and central. They don't understand it. Sorry, I'm having a drink there.
Is he son of God? Is he God? Was he just a man? Like, which?
No, he was this. Oh God! Like, how do we have to explain this again? Jesus calls son. Jesus calls God Father. Okay, therefore he is the Son of God. But he is also part of God because he is the Word. Oh, I don't know how many times that you can explain this to, like, Muslims. I've tried to explain this to many Muslim friends, and they just don't understand that. They don't understand how God can have a son. They don't understand, like, they think that God created people out of dust, and that's the only way they can be created. So it's pointless having an argument. It's absolutely pointless.
Which of these is it? Yeah? Are you a Trinitarian? Are you a Unitarian? Do you believe in the King James Version of the Bible? Do you believe in the New International Version of the Bible? And then when you take certain quotes of the Bible, in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28, it says, if you grape a virgin, you must pay her father 50 shekels, and then you marry her, and then you are never to divorce her. Yes, it's in the Bible. Of course, another verse that says disobedience to the father.
What about in your Quran where it says you can have like a multiple wives, including sex slaves, where it says where your right hand possesses, where you can rape that woman, you don't offer her marriage. In fact, you can go on, and when you're done with her, you can sell her. And it doesn't, and it even says in this passage, even if she is prepubescent, which means she is a child. If someone has a stubborn and rebellious son who does not obey his father and mother and not listen to them when they discipline him, his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him to the elders of the gate of the town. They shall say to the elders, the son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey. He is glutton and drunkard. Then all the men in the town are to stone him to death. You must purge the evil among you, all Israel. This is Old Testament stuff, okay? This stuff doesn't, happen anymore. And that was, this all changed because Jesus, when Jesus came, he fulfilled the Old Testament's covenant. But the Muslims like to go back to the Old Testament. The Old Testament, in which I believe Muhammad copied the Quran from, but because he was illiterate, couldn't read, and a bit of a dipshit, he got so many parts of it wrong. I mean, there's stories in the Bible, I swear to God, that would make you hee-haw and laugh. The fact that so we say the Al-Aqsa, they call the attack that happened in October 7th, the Al-Aqsa flood. Now, the reason they're so butthurt over the Al-Aqsa Mosque is because of a passage in the Quran. So one night, they're all sitting round a campfire, and old Mo decides to go to bed. He wakes up in the morning and has this fantastical tale to tell them. He said that his donkey sprouted wings, so his flying donkey monster sprouted wings and flew him all the way to Jerusalem, where the Temple Mount is. So then that became a holy site for Muslims. But when his companions who had already been to the temple, started quizzing him about it, asking him questions like, "Oh, was this there? What did you think of this part?" And he got it all wrong. He didn't he obviously didn't know what he was talking about. But then this came become a holy site that he and he'd said this mosque was already built, blah blah blah. So he visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque, even though his companions knew that mosque wasn't even built yet. Now, Muhammad died about 90 years after the Al-Aqsa Mosque was built. So you tell me how a man could visit a mosque that wasn't built yet 90 years after he died. This is the stupidity that we're dealing with here.
Or the mother, one of the punishments is you could be stoned to death just for disobeying your parents. And
what a joke, stoned to death just for you guys stone people to death all the bloody time. All the time. I won't go into this story in great detail, but there was in Afghanistan, there was a young boy who had sex out of wedlock, but because he was the only son and carried on the family name, normally you'd probably give your I don't know what you would do. You give your kid a slap on the wrist. Don't do it again. But you want to know what this family did? They had to find someone to punish. So that they grabbed the 7-year-old daughter out of bed, buried her in a hole up to her waist, and stoned her to death instead. This little 7-year-old girl who had done nothing wrong got stoned to death in retribution as to what her brother did. Now, none of these kids deserve to be stoned to death, but especially not this little girl. This is how barbaric these people like this is. And then you've also heard of the term bakabazi, where they'll dress 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old boys up in girls' clothes, makeup, wigs, whatnot. And they'll put these little kids in like a tent kind of thing with the A&A and the AP, which is Afghan Army and Afghan police. They all sit around like the outskirts of the room, and as soon as they see like this little boy that they like, they don't just go up and gently like lead these little fellas away. They go up and they grab them. They grab them and pull them to like the corner of the room, and they don't even do it in privacy. They just I'm sure you can guess what they do. It's RAPE, but it's not. So it's like I don't know what to do. So it's like, yeah, they sodomize like little boys, and it's not just like one guy that does it. I mean, these little boys this can happen to them 4, 5, maybe even more times in one night. And then they'll just like throw some money at them, and then gleefully watch them scramble to like pick these few little amounts of money off the floor. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
We haven't even mentioned 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 3, which Netanyahu quoted before committing the genocide in Palestine. They were commanded to kill men, women.
There's no a genocide in Palestine. The birth rate in Palestine so far is like there's 68,000 babies being born in Palestine. If you think there's a genocide in Palestine, why did they roll out a polio vaccination program? If they wanted to like end like the Palestinian people's lives, why even bother doing that? Why bother like vaccinating all these people? They could quite easily like do this by using like bunker bombs. The birth rate is well exceeded. Like the death toll, and not that I'm advocating like any death is a tragedy. Any death is a tragedy, no matter who it is. But you have to also remember that this was not started by the Israelis. Hamas are the ones who started this. Hamas were the ones who dug all the tunnels out and would not let the Gazans in to take shelter, and even told them these are for the Hamas fighters only. They are stealing like the food trucks, and then we hear about like all the starving people in Palestine. When you saw the hostage videos, I'm not fat shaming or anything like that, but what I seen was everybody looking quite plump and well fed. The only people I saw emaciated and starving were the hostages. They looked like skin and bones. It's a genocide is it negates like the meaning of a true genocide. It's like the word like racism. It negates like the word of like what true racism really is. You know, like where they had like true apartheid in South Africa, where they had Jim Crow in America. I mean, there's over 2 million Arab, Muslims, and Christians, etc., Jews, and whatnot, live in actual Israel, who have all the same rights as the Jewish Israeli citizens. Yes, like there's checkpoints, but do you blame them after the first and second intifadas, where people were sneaking suicide vests and knives and weapons and that into Israel and murdering people indiscriminately, regardless of their religion or race, or yeah. And then like as well, like when they attacked like the kibbutzes, they murdered African. I mean, there's a horrendous video of an African student who was over there studying agriculture. They taunted him, they beat him, they terrified him, and then they shot him. Then there was like Thai workers as well over there working. And then there's a horrendous video going around of them like knocking him out, and he's on the ground, and one of these like barbarians gets a garden hose, like a shovel, and as he's screaming Allahu Akbar, takes the shovel and decapitates him, smashing it down on his neck continuously. And then we get all the numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry, which like I'd rather believe like the devil than I would believe them. Saying like that 50,000 people have been, not even them, this is the international community saying 50,000 people have been killed. Gaza Health Ministry have seen 26,000 people have been killed. But what they don't take into consideration is the Hamas fighters who have been killed. And it must be an act to God, because all of a sudden no one in Gaza has died of natural causes. So where's all the people that have died in natural causes in Gaza? Have they just stopped ceasing to exist? So I would say an estimate would probably be, if they're saying the Gaza Help Mission, so we'll give it an estimate of 30,000, okay? The estimate is that about 10,000 people have been killed who are Hamas fighters. So you have 10,000. Then another 2,000 in natural deaths. So you have 8,000 people. And I know that's an awful lot of people, and it's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. But, name other form of modern urban warfare where this kind of ratio combatant to civilian has been fought. And you'll never ever find it in places like Iraq. For one combatant, you're getting maybe 15 civilians. So it's certainly not a genocide. And I wish they stop using that word, because it does truly negate the amount of people who have died in Genesis, like the people who have died in Rwanda, the Congo, Somalia, Syria. These were ethnic genocidal murders. Gaza is just not the case. And just because the UN says it's so, the UN are a joke, an absolute joke, not fit for purpose. I mean, you just have to take a look at the UN. The UN has Iran leading its Women's Rights Council. That's a joke. The amount of women who have been murdered in Iran just for not wearing a hijab. Utter joke. So yeah, I would believe the man in the moon before I believe anything that came out of the UN.
In children, and then suckling infant, cattle, camels, donkeys. Complete wipeout. And we all know what Netanyahu said when he came on the stage. All he said was Amalek. And B'Tselem, who are the human rights organization in Israel, have said that whoever has gone through the education system in Israel knows full well when someone mentions Amalek, it means complete and utter wipeout. And even when you look at the clergy and you look at the system of priesthood and all of these systems that you see within Christianity, you'll notice that this is not practical. You can see one Christian on the side, he's getting very triggered by this, and after a 10-minute conversation with him, he's going to realize that his faith is impractical as well. So ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what Christian...
How dare you say his faith is impractical? As if you're above. As if you are above this gentleman's opinion. But I have noticed this a lot with even Muslims that I have spoken to. They seem to have this I'm kind of better than you mentality. it must annoy them that they believe that they are like that they have received the last prophet of God and that they are the last religion. Yet you look to every single country that's ran by Sharia and Islam, and they suck. They absolutely suck. So for him to like, and another thing, he wouldn't be able to be saying these kind of things if he lived in one of those countries, would he? Not at all. Freedom of speech is shut down in those places. So if you're standing in London, then this gentleman has every right, as long as he's not being violent, to challenge you about the BS that you're saying.
He has been reduced to, but we persevere because we know what we have is the truth. Let the dogs bark and let the lions roar. Let's leave it there, guys. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Sorry, mate, but we are the lions. The lions are the emblem of England. So yeah, you got a bit owned there. Now I want to show you some more proof about Charles. Let me.
They couldn't believe King Charles said this about Islam.
The Islamic world is the custodian of one of the greatest treasuries of accumulated wisdom and spiritual knowledge available to humanity.
They couldn't believe King Charles said this about Islam.
Yeah, right then, Charles.
So trigger warning before I start this video. This is not a debate about which religion is better. This is an open discussion about the one world organization, the one world religion, the one world civilization that we are moving towards when the Antichrist rules the world for 7 years. Hey, friends and family of the internet, welcome back to Starkey Forum Says. So my name is Samantha, and I wanted to do an update to the video that I just put out earlier, talking about that the Muslim faith has one thing that they want, and it's to take your country over. Watch this. University of Cambridge was founded in 1209. Now, this was and always had been like a Catholic university. The way it works with universities is like this. Within the university, which is the umbrella, are colleges. You can have the College of Math, the College of Education, the College of Engineering, the College of Nursing, the College of Bible Study. Well, the thing about Cambridge was it was originally founded under Catholicism. And as time went on, it added things like math and the Bible studies and stuff like that. Now, what I want you to keep in mind, it is a Christian university founded in a Christian country, and it opened its doors to allow 350 participants to an open Ramadan breaking of their fast. Now, Ramadan is something that Muslims do. But the thing that upset a lot of Christians in Europe is that the defender of the faith, the head of the church, is actually the King of England. I want you to listen what this gentleman has to say.
Has King Charles broken his sacred contract with the British people? As a defender of the faith and supreme governor of the Church of England, King Charles III holds a solemn duty and a contract with the people, forged through centuries of tradition. But now that contract stands on the verge of collapse. The recent Islamic call to prayer echoing through Windsor Castle has ignited a firestorm of controversy, raising urgent questions about the King's commitment to his sworn role. Is he uploading the faith he vowed to defend, or is he betraying it in the name of globalist inclusivity? History teaches us what happens when monarchs break faith with their people. What does this mean? For over 500 years, British monarchs have been bound to the Church of England, not a multi-faith experiment. King Charles once suggested altering his title to Defender of Faith. Is this the moment he finally abandons tradition? If a king breaks the very contract that grants him legitimacy, does he still deserve the crown? Is this the beginning of a monarchy in crisis? The people must ask, what happens when a king no longer defends the faith?
Now, you may disagree with me. You may say, Sam, this is not a big deal. This is just allowing, visitors to your country to feel comfortable. But folks, it is much bigger than that. There's a non-profit that is pushing these types of displays.
The holy month of Ramadan, which begins over weekend Muslim festival, blah blah blah. Ramadan temple project. Iconic venues include Windsor Castle, with an aim to bridge gaps. Founder Oman Soha as a team. Yeah, I think they should have had this, and if they want to bridge gaps and that, have it in a mosque, not in a building that was founded to not in a building that was founded to study Catholicism.
Of Muslim practices within Christian countries, within Christian universities, within...
We would not be allowed to do this in an Islamic country, put it that way.
Christian spaces, much like we see from the left when they push men into women's spaces, right? Nothing can stand alone. Nothing can be sacred anymore, including me working an honest wage, making videos and YouTube paying me. So they demonetize us because videos like this hurt a liberal's feelings. If you want videos that tell you the truth, that bring you up-to-date, pertinent information, please consider and pray about supporting our channel. It's linked at the top of comments. Why? Because what they're saying is this is a great display of interfaith discussions. It is all part of the World Economic Forum. It is all part of the one world rule. They have got to get people so comfortable with the mixing of religions, with the mixing of sexes, with the mixing of countries, with, illegal aliens being in your country. They want to normalize all of this so we can have a one global world under a one global religion. As a Christian,
I'd like to see how the Muslims react to the whole transgender issue and stuff like that, because we all know that they are very, very, very anti-LGBTQ, very against it.
all my life I have been trained up, raised up for a time such as this. The Bible tells us, the time will draw near when good is called evil and evil is called good, when right is wrong and wrong is right, when people will be so sexually perverse, they will mutilate the genitalia and hormones of innocent children. Mm-hmm. When you see people that run your countries reduce charges for pedophilia, you know that we are slowly but quickly watching the hourglass drain of the last sands of humanity. So, folks, if you do not know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, let me introduce you to him. He took my husband and I out of addiction. He took us out of poverty. And he brought us back to life. He rejuvenated life in us and our families. It's a simple thing to confess your sins to Jesus and ask him to come and live in your heart. Just like that, it's done. You can do it anywhere, anyway. Just have the faith, confess, and receive the salvation from the blood of Jesus. Now, here's the issue. We are letting more and more Muslims into countries across the world. It is happening over and over and over. But Christians, conservatives, Republicans, and even Democrats are afraid to say anything because they'll call you what? Islamophobic. I'm not afraid of Islam. It's a wrong religion. It's only going to lead you to hell. So I want you guys to spread this video because I'm going to share another video with you real quick. And this one is really going to upset
The
you.
rights of Muslim women to property and inheritance and to the conducting of business were rights prescribed by the Quran 1400 years ago. Some of these rights were novel even to my grandmother's generation. Think what could be achieved if mothers and fathers, the teachers in madrasas and imams, all sought to demonstrate to children how to translate Islamic teachings into practical action. Many of the traits on which modern Europe prides itself came to it from Muslim Spain. Diplomacy, free trade, open borders, the techniques of academic research, of anthropology, etiquette, fashion, various types of medicine,
And they were conquered by the sword. I don't think Spain, Charles, and do not think Spain was too happy about being conquered by Muslims. Hence why we had the Crusades to push them back. God, you're just advocating for Muslim conquest. And I suspect you'd probably be happy if it happened in bloody Britain.
Islam is part of our past and our present in all
No.
fields of human endeavor. It has helped to create modern Europe. It is part of our own inheritance.
That right there is why they no longer teach real history to your children. Because everything he just said is pretty much not true. It's not true. Did he forget about the Crusades?
Windsor Castle. For the first time, Muslims marking the holy month of Ramadan have been invited to break fast at a royal residence. Windsor Castle opened its doors for more than 300 members of the public to join for iftar and pray. Our reporter Asad Ahmad was there.
Windsor Castle has seen a lot in its 1,000 years, but never this.
Welcome.
300 members of the public, mostly, but not all Muslim, applied for a free ticket to come and break their Ramadan fast in the magnificent St George's Hall, normally used to entertain heads of state and for special royal events.
Amazing. It's an amazing atmosphere, and we were saying it just doesn't feel real.
It's very kind of the royal family to open their home to us.
We never thought we'd be here breaking iftar. We've really come a long way.
Words count, friends and family. And she said it all right there. We've really come a long way. They have. They have. With grooming gangs and the rapes of white and black European women across all these countries. Whole areas where you can't even walk your dog anymore because of sheer law. Child brides, the whole kit and caboodle.
And this is true. Do you know that there's parks where you're not allowed to walk your dog because Muhammad was scared of dogs, so like dogs are prohibited in Islam. So you're not allowed to have dogs as pets. And so therefore you're not allowed to like walk in parks with dogs in them. Another thing that they complain about is the St George's flag. because the Crusaders wore St. George's flag on their armour, that offends Muslims. But they seem to forget that the Crusaders weren't the only ones fighting in these wars. Muslim armies were also fighting in these wars. But it's only the Crusaders and their flags that alarm the Muslim community. I've seen in the news that there was a woman who had a St. George's flag outside her home, and one of her Muslim neighbours complained about it, saying that it caused them alarm and distress. What kind of flag caused alarm and distress is something that happened thousands of years ago. Get a grip. But the council made that woman take it down. God, like, they certainly have got the victim card down to a T. Down to a T.
They brought it to Western civilization. And Europe, if any of you are watching this right now, friends, you are revolutionaries at heart. It's time to take your country back.
Over 350 people calmly took their seats to become a part of history.
And history.
That literally hurts my heart to hear that. Hurts my heart in a Christian nation to hear Islamic call to prayer. I mean, I don't mind. I've been to Egypt and stuff like that. I don't mind hearing it there because that's part of their culture. It's part of the religion. And I would never, ever, ever dare complain about Islamic call to prayer there. However, this is a Christian country, not an Islamic country. And as that first guy said, who are we to complain, you know? After all, we're on decline, so who are we to complain about Christian values and stuff? Because DIP, SHIT, this is still a Christian nation, and we do not want to hear Islamic call to prayer in our country.
And wow, what a seismic force.
And history it is. There's the fall of Europe. Mark my words, Americans and Canadians. Within the next 15 to 20 years, Europe will be our greatest enemy. It will be Muslims who have never had the type of capable rockets at their fingertips right across that ocean.
And that is when you will find many Brits, if America will have us emigrating over to America, because we won't feel safe in our own country anymore. At this present moment, there are no-go areas for white and black Brits venturing into these Sharia compliant neighborhoods. And as I said, even leaders of Islamic countries like Dubai, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, have all said that in Europe, the Muslim majority is even more radical than they even foresaw.
Right at our doorstep, Europe is no longer European.
I agree with that there. Let's see if we can find any more from Charlie Boy.
In a series of statements, he has rebutted the clash of the civilizations thing, that Islam is at loggerheads with Christianity and other religions. He's been the patron of the Oxford Centre for Islamic Studies.
Assalamu alaikum.
And he's also did an inaugural address titled Islam and the West. To read the Quran, the guy has taken the effort to learn Arabic. Now, this was something that even Thomas Jefferson did as well. Again, a big thing, one of the founders of the US. He was anti-war on Iraq as well.
Can you imagine, like, the way Charles, like, advocates for Islam, how British Jews, British Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Christians feel? Not very safe at this point. Not very safe. There is another
My understanding of Islam is that it warns that to deny the reality of our inner being leads to an inner darkness which can quickly extend outwards into the world of nature. This, then, is why the wisdom and learning offered by a sacred tradition like Islam matters. The Islamic world is the custodian of one of the greatest treasuries of accumulated wisdom and spiritual knowledge available to humanity. And yet, so often, that wisdom is now obscured by the dominant drive towards Western materialism. The modernist ideology that has dominated the Western outlook for a century implies that tradition is backward-looking. This is far from true. It looks forward. Think what could be achieved if mothers and fathers, the teachers in madrasas and imams, all sought to demonstrate to children how to translate Islamic teachings into practical action. My understanding of Islam is that it warns that to deny the reality of our inner being leads to an inner darkness which can quickly extend outwards into the world of nature. This, then, is why the wisdom and learning offered by a sacred tradition like Islam matters. The Islamic world is the custodian of one of the greatest treasuries of accumulated wisdom and spiritual knowledge available to you.
Oh, gosh. That's I'm basically saying, yeah, Islam's the best. Yeah. They have all the wisdom. It just, to me, it just, like, shows, like, that Charles has a great affinity for Islam. But where is his affinity for Christianity, in which he's meant to be the head of the church?
King Charles's speech on Islam will blow your mind. An address by King Charles has resurfaced and sent shockwaves across the UK and beyond, as the monarch not only quoted the Quran, but also praised the contributions of Muslims to British society. His speech has left many stunned, triggering an intense debate online and in the media. Some have welcomed his words as a sign of inclusivity and respect for the diverse communities that make up modern Britain.
And if they're so, like, if they've contributed so much, how come, just look at Nobel Prizes, not peace prizes. You have the Jews who have, like, I think it's about 147 Nobel Prizes. How many do you think Muslim countries have out of the 2.1 billion Muslims in the world? Take a guess. Leave it in the comments below. 2. They have 2.
Others, however, have reacted with shock and controversy, with some even questioning, has King Charles converted to Islam? While there is no official indication of a religious shift, the King's speech has certainly caught the public's attention. He spoke at length about the values of...
I want to show you this about this imam. No, like, why would this guy have a reason to lie? So here we are. In 1996, the Grand Mufti... Now, a Grand Mufti is the equivalent of, like, archdiocese. I'm trying to, like, put it in, like, Catholic terms. So... think of a pope, but one down, I would say. So in 1996, the Grand Mufti of Cyprus, Nazim al-Haqqani, sorry if I'm butchering him, claimed that Prince Charles, now King Charles, had secretly converted to Islam in Turkey. However, Buckingham Palace denied this. Of course they would, because if this was true, Charles would have to abdicate the throne of England, because we can't have a Muslim as head of the Christian Church or of the monarchy. Despite they claim it's nonsense. Despite the Mufti's assertion, Charles has remained a committed Christian of England. Of course he has. While he has expressed positive views on Islam, I wonder why, and other religions. What other religions? Because I have never seen him acknowledge is it Diwali for Hindus, and Sikh celebrations, Hanukkah, and this year he totally getting to even mention any Christian celebrations. It was only until he was called out that he finally did it. While he expressed positive views on Islam or blah blah blah, Buckingham Palace therefore has no credible evidence to support the claim of this conversion. And we have Calvin Harris saying the same. King Charles III has Charles is not converted to Islam. Of course they're going to say this. The coronation of King Charles III. Notorious hate preacher Andram Chowdhury once stated his desire to convert Buckingham Palace. Looks like Andrew Charkes, the terrorist, finally got his wish. And we have Cora as Charles III, secret, a Muslim. Absolutely, I've heard that he's going to change the Church of England and Scotland. So, yeah.
Public's attention. He spoke at length about the values of Islam, emphasizing the importance of unity, compassion, and shared humanity. He also acknowledged the positive influence of Muslim communities across the UK,
and the term Islam is the religion of peace was coined by Barack Hussein Obama. Just food for thought.
Their contributions to society, culture, and the economy. For many, this speech aligns with Charles's long-standing interest in interfaith dialogue. As Prince of Wales, he often spoke about the importance of building bridges between religions, even once expressing his desire to be seen as the defender of faiths, rather than just the defender of the Christian faith. His latest remarks seem to reinforce that commitment. But why is this speech causing such a stir? Is it being misinterpreted, or does it mark a shift in how the monarchy engages with religion in the modern era? Let's break it all down, but first, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Just a quick one to say we have new Liber t-shirts available on our website. You can check the link in the description or go to BritishStand.com. Now, have a watch of this.
As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan. Peace be upon you all. Ramadan Mubarak. As Muslims across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth observe the beginning of the holiest of months in the Islamic calendar, the month of Ramadan, I just wanted to convey my heartfelt best wishes to you all, and to tell you just how much my wife and I are thinking of you at this special time of year. As this would have been a joyous time. Mosques would be filling with life, Muslim families would be coming together to share food and prayers, and many of them would be inviting their neighbors and friends of all faiths and none to join them. My wife and I can only offer you all our kindest and most special wishes, and stress just how greatly the contribution of Muslims to the life of the United Kingdom is appreciated and valued, embodying the Ramadan spirit of charity and selflessness. As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan. Peace be upon you all.
This is how people reacted. This user said, he sold out his soul and the country. Did he say anything about the beginning of Lent and the holy period leading up to Lent? Did he mention Christ's suffering for us? Did he mention the Bible the Queen would be turning in her grave? And the way he is using his position as head of the church and head of state to forget Christ and sell his country to Satan. John said, he's always been an idiot to be fair, nothing's changed there. Jim said, screw Charles, no king of mine, damn sellout. Connie said, what a melt of a man, I do miss our lovely queen. This user said, what he's talking about is treason, and he needs to abdicate the throne. Only a Protestant can sit on the throne. This user said, this garbage pail king is probably being promised. He'll stay the monarch as long as he goes along with giving his country away. He'll be the new paper sultan. What a disgrace to his country and his people. Utter disgrace. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. In other news, hundreds of illegal immigrants who commit immigration-related crimes will avoid deportation following the release of new proposed punishments, Robert Jenrick has warned. Under new guidelines set out by the Sentencing Council, immigrants will fall short of the automatic deportation threshold even after knowingly entering without leave, deception, possession of false identity documents with improper intention, and possession of false identity documents without reasonable excuse. Research conducted by the Shadow Justice Secretary showed the number of criminals sentenced for such offences stood at 120 between June 2022 and December 2022.
Right, that's enough of that. So what do you guys think? There's loads more. I'll make a part 2 on this because there is absolutely tons and tons and tons and tons of Charles advocating for Islam. Do you guys think that Charles is a secret Muslim? What do you guys think of the Grand Mufti coming out and saying that Charles converted to Islam in 1996? What do you guys think of Charles putting Islam before Christianity? I'd just like to hear your opinion on this, because I find it very interesting. And do you guys think that he's doing it in a sneaky way in order so he doesn't have to abdicate? But if it is found out that it is proven true, do you think that Charles needs to abdicate big time? Alright, I'll speak to you all later and I'll be back soon. Love you guys.